Hello everybody, this is Anthony John Agnello, Senior Social Editor at Games Radar Plus. Most video games age faster than a newborn platypus. 1 second they look cutting edge, and just a year later, developers have found ways to use the same hardware to make a sequel look like something wildly advanced by comparison. These 7 games in particular look horrifically dated next to their sequels.
Father? I can't see! Get out, Dennis! Save yourself, Alice! Get out of the house!
American McGee's Alice and Alice Madness Returns. And the year 2000, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater sequels and super blocky Joanna Dark were hot to death, but not nearly as hot as American McGee's platformer Alice. A Tim Burton spin on Alice in Wonderland done better and years before the director's actual take on the story, it became a surprise hit thanks to its gothy style. A sequel went into production immediately, but was shelved due to development issues. A decade later, and Alice Madness Returns hit shelves, and what a difference those 10 years made. Madness Returns' smooth jumping and hack-slash fights demonstrated just how janky the first Alice was, even by 2000 standards. Didn't see the critical praise the original did, but the comparison is enough to crack any rose-colored glasses.
It's not shutting down. It's not.
Half-Life and Half-Life 2. Half-Life is still a damn good game, but back in 1998, it was positively mind-blowing. Its unsettling, claustrophobic environment and impressive storytelling chops made Valve's signature game a huge step forward for all games. Going back to Half-Life 1 after playing Half-Life 2, however, is not easy. It's not just the bigger and more detailed environments, or the fact that Source Engine games still look damn fine 12 years later. It's that the blocky world of Half-Life 1 feels like the apex of a gaming age that passed right when it came out, while Half-Life 2's feels like something from a new age right at its beginning. The original doesn't just represent the past by definition, it's emblematic of all PC gaming's pre-millennial growth, and Half-Life 2 represents all its post-millennial growth. Deus Ex, Invisible War, and Deus Ex, Human Revolution. Poor Deus Ex, Invisible War, the awkward middle child of the Deus Ex series. While it was never a bad game, its reputation has always been that it's not completely terrible. Not the most glowing endorsement. But it's not only regarded as inferior to its predecessor. Deus Ex Human Revolution showed up 8 years later and simultaneously made the series relevant again, and made Invisible War look even worse than it did when it first came out. In addition to a host of predictable graphical issues, no one stands like that Invisible War, its super small levels feel even more cramped than they did in 2003. Human Revolution highlights those issues by virtue of its large dynamic settings and characters who, actually move their faces. Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake and Metal Gear Solid. Not every series makes the jump from 2D to 3D gracefully. For every Mario 64, there's a Bionic Commando, an Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 game that somehow looked more dated than the NES game that preceded it when it came out. The jump from Metal Gear 2, Solid Snake, to Metal Gear Solid, though, is the very definition of an impressive leap in dimensional design. That's not to say that Solid Snake's chunky pixel presentation on the MSX is ugly or lacks function. The game holds up pretty nicely. But given that the two games are almost identical structurally, it's mind-blowing how much better its gameplay ideas are suited to the PlayStation sequel's 3D presentation. Everything from the dramatic story to simple acts like hiding behind walls gained a profound tactility in the transition to the third dimension. Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VIII. Yes, Final Fantasy VII was that good. Hate all you want. Squaresoft's 1997 opus was a work of profound beauty and ambition. That said, there's a damn good reason it's being remade 20 years later. Final Fantasy VII was dated as soon as it came out. The awkward nature of making a 3D game for the very first time meant that Square hadn't quite settled on a coherent presentation. In battles, Seven's characters look like realistically proportioned humans. On the world map, they look like nubby anime blobs. Final Fantasy VIII smoothed out those issues just 2 years later on the PlayStation with a magically elegant, coherent visual style. While there was still a division between the game's lush cinematics and its in-game characters, the gulf wasn't nearly as big, making Final Fantasy VIII look like the game of the future 7 was pointing to. Spec Ops, Airborne, Commando, and Spec Ops The Line. War is hell, unless you're playing Spec Ops Airborne Commando, in which case it's kind of hard to tell what war is at all. The 2002 isometric shooter is a barely remembered footnote in the long-running action series, notable only for how it was the last time anyone heard the name Spec Ops in gaming for 10 years. When Spec Ops The Line came out of Jaeger development in 2012, it was still a military shooter just like all its Elder series siblings, but it traded the brute violence and budget presentation for a stylish riff on Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. Airborne looked more like a hack job from the Pong age rather than something from the 21st century compared to The Line's presentation and ambition. Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters and Kid Icarus Uprising. For those who don't grasp how much time passed between the release of Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters and Kid Icarus Uprising, trust me, the sorry to keep you waiting joke in the reveal trailer was warranted. Originally hitting the Game Boy in 1991, the series' first sequel was precisely what you'd expect from a handheld of the time. Simple puzzle solving and platforming in lovely moss green that looked somewhat like the colorful NES original, but not exactly like it. Myths and Monsters actually did improve on some of the NES game's more punishing quirks. When the series emerged from 20 years of hibernation, though, it was like a dream version of what a modernized Kid Icarus could be. Brilliantly colorful, hilariously written, viciously challenging, and presented in stereoscopic 3D, Uprising is the sort of game that would have sounded downright mythical when Myths and Monsters first came out. Hey, if you dig this list, follow Games Radar on YouTube for more precisely like it. That's youtube.com/GamesRadar.